And I live in Frontenac, but I send my kids to Ladue.
Yeah, I know. That's your mistake.
That's already.
She's coming in hot. I love this.
Hey guys, Alex Rich.
Ben Corimba.
Hey, we are excited to let you know that we have episodes of our podcast, Jews in the Lou, dropping every other week, and you're not going to want to miss. We have some great guests lined up.
Amazing. And while I have you, I want to thank the St. Louis Jewish Light for their incredible partnership and support of our podcast. St. Louis Jewish Light doing amazing work for our community, keeping us informed with stories, with updates.
And visit stlJewishLight.org. Subscribe to their newsletter. They'll keep you up to date on everything going on.
Absolutely. Well, see you soon.
But yeah, so now here we are, and we've kept this thing going.
I my knowledge of baseball is there's one of my favorite saying is H.L. Mencken said, baseball in Italian is like opera in English is like baseball in Italian, which means, I just know nothing about baseball.
Okay.
So
Do you not?
No, so
Not
I know
yet,
nothing
man.
about Chaim.
Mark's
Okay,
a
well,
baseball-
you'll learn a lot.
Yeah, he's
baseball.
a phenomenal, just
He's
a
gonna be
mastermind.
great. Yeah.
When
Right.
he's transparent, I think I love that about him. Like, I love that he is willing to say, yeah, we are actually rebuilding. I think for years, the Cardinals have struggled with that rebuilding term because it's the brand. They don't want to hurt the fans' feelings and things like that. And he seems like he is just like, no, this is my plan.
Yep.
I'll answer any question you have, which is really cool.
And he's now another Jew in the loop, so we're excited about it.
Yeah.
But we had to add you guys to the list. We did a father-daughter combo.
Who was that?
Yes.
We did Tamar and Howie share.
Oh, cool.
But now we needed to do a mother-son.
Mother-son.
And no better than the Spewaks, right?
That's right.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us.
Honored to be here.
And
Yeah.
you guys
This
both,
is an honor.
I think this is our first, you're the mayor of Ladue, right?
I am the mayor.
This
of
is our
Ladue.
first mayor, our first first politician.
I think that we are somewhat of politicians
Okay.
too, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But first elected official.
First elected
Wow.
official.
How about that?
Yeah, that's a
That's
good
an honor.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I live in Frontenac, but I send my kids to Ladue.
Yeah, I know. That's your mistake.
That's already.
She's coming in hot. I love this. What makes Ladue special, like in your mind, when people talk about Ladue?
I think Ladue is special because of, for a couple of reasons, but probably the strongest reason is that we are unique in the services that we offer. Just everything is, as I would say, top of the line, the gold standard. Our police, our fire EMS, our public works, and it's a beautiful community. It's a community of people who really, they care about each other and we know each other. But I think Ladue distinguishes itself because the way we operate our city and the services we provide are the highest standard. I would put us up against anybody any day.
So when you're not mayor, what are you? What do you do? How did you end up like?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
How do you end up as the mayor? What's the path to get there, and what do you do?
So when I'm not mayor, long time ago when I wasn't mayor, I was raising 4 sons. I actually worked with St. Louis Business Journal.
I didn't know
years
there's
ago.
four of you.
And
All boys?
I was in
Yeah, all boys.
marketing and circulation. And then I got married, had the boys. And right around when Mark was in grade school,
Probably 5th grade.
Are you the
Yeah.
oldest, youngest, middle?
Third in
Third
line.
one.
Okay.
Yep.
he was, right around when he was in grade school, I started a staging business.
Okay.
Because I had a really good neighbor and friend who was an agent, and said there's just nothing in the market right now except one large company, and nobody really wants to use them for, it's kind of a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
So I started with one house, and it just took off. I mean, I reached out to some agents, and I just built this business, and I had a partner at the time, and we just bought furniture, we own it, so we started staging. And
Well, you're not mentioning the fact that we would come home from school and the kitchen table would be gone, or upstairs, the couch
It's
would
not
be
unlike
gone.
what I do, by the way.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I take something and put it in the restaurant.
Yeah.
She would be using the inventory,
Yeah, right,
staging,
right, yeah.
Business
and all of a sudden
with
it's
your own
gone.
inventory.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Because it's expensive to
Yes.
start. you
Yeah,
know? And
she's
I
just trying to cut overhead
Yeah.
costs a little bit, you know.
And so I'd haul out the furniture sometimes. And that grew. And then that grew into interior design, which I didn't see coming. And it wasn't really a plan. But people that were buying homes would see what we did and say, hey, what do you do in the house?
Yeah.
And so now I have a partner, Susie Sheehan, and it's the company is Property Enhancements, and we do interior design, and we still have the staging division
Right.
too. Yeah, so.
So
Do you
from
still have
staging-
no furniture in your
From
house?
say,
She's got now tons of
now
furniture.
we
Okay,
got-
all right.
And they
no,
have a
so, from,
warehouse and everything.
so what I'm interested in is from doing that
Yes,
to entering the public sphere,
yes.
and why.
Okay, so I started with the boys in school. There was an event in Ladue called the Ladue Dogwood Parade and Festival. And one of the men on the committee had a son in his oldest brother's class. And he said, hey, will you come sit on the committee and represent the public schools? Because I had kids in Ladue schools.
Yeah.
And so I did. And that's how it started. And I got to know the people that were running the city. And I was raised here. My dad was from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And my mom was from Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay.
And my dad came to St. Louis for WashU. He's an orthodontist, and he came to teach and start a practice. And the only place he ever wanted to live was Ladue. To him, it was the pinnacle. You know.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
came-
for
he-
sure.
He had he had five. There was 5 kids. His parents. They lived over like probably what was a little bodega on a corner in Milwaukee, and they had that little store. And there were five kids, and each one of the oldest brother put the next one through school, and then the
Wow.
next brother put the next one through.
Wow.
And so this was to him. So I grew up
Yeah.
loving the city and knowing that it was really special.
Right.
And so I got this opportunity, and the Dogwood Parade was so fun and so cute. There were more people in the parade than there were.
But still,
watching,
from
which
like
is-
organizing a parade to saying I'm gonna run.
I'm gonna run for
So
mayor.
then-
I'm gonna run
so
this
then-
city.
So then I started running the parade and the festival, right? And I was chairing that. And then there was an opening on city council. And the mayor at the time said, there's an opening.
Who was the
How
mayor
about
at the
you
time?
run?" Irene Holmes.
Okay.
And she said, hey, how about you run? You know, and I had gotten to know the other mayors
Mm-hmm.
prior to that and city council people, and, because we were doing this big event for the city.
Right.
So to me, it's the ultimate give back. I did a lot of volunteering. I was president of the Friends of Children's Hospital. I worked and I was on the Miriam Shop board, and just did a lot of volunteering.
Right.
I was children oriented. My husband's dad is a pediatrician. So to me, this is like the ultimate give back. There's no pay, salary zero, and you're really doing something for
Yeah.
your community.
That's wonderful.
So then I got on the council, and then I started to see things that I thought might be, that we could continue to improve.
Yeah.
You can't be at the top of your game.
And so when
I've always kind of secretly thought that maybe I'd be like, I'd have fun being the mayor. But
Yeah,
like
it's
You have
I
that
live in Richmond
personality.
Heights, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
always kind of thought like,
Just get
it'd
into
be
it.
fun to kind of just be the mayor. Like, then you think about all the I'm sure you deal with negatives, a lot of like people that are complaining about different things.
Yep, we
You know,
do.
it depends obviously
Yeah.
what city, like Ladue, hopefully you don't have too much like of complaint, but there's somebody that's gonna have a problem no matter what you do. Like,
Right.
it's just is what it is.
It's in navigating a business, of course, there's going to be.
And we're a community mostly, of leaders
Mm-hmm.
and people who are leading their companies.
Well,
They're not-
that's true. So Ladue is, and we're gonna get to Mark in a second here, but Ladue is definitely filled with personalities, filled with people, with a lot of accomplishment, filled with people with status, and I can't but imagine that's part of that's a double-edged sword. Obviously,
Yeah.
a lot of strong opinions, a lot of
My wife's the teacher at the Ladue fifth grade center.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So, and so it's like,
she knows, understands
oh,
the
there's
dynamics.
the dynamics. There's
Yeah.
many parents have many different personalities in Ladue as well, for
I've
sure.
learned over the years that when someone is upset about something, you listen to them, and I always learn something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always listen to someone else's perspective, and I learn something, and we come to a conclusion.
Sure.
Are you a politician? Do you feel yourself as like
I don't think of myself as a politician.
you have aspirations grander than the
No,
city of
I do
Ladue?
not. No.
I'm just, it's a
I do
legitimate
not.
question,
It's,
right?
yeah, it's
No,
more help because
no,
it's more because
no.
it's like home to you. Like
Yeah,
that-
it's my community.
You don't want bigger than
And
that.
this is how I firmly believe that Ladue or any community anywhere cannot remain at the top of their game, be one of the top 10 communities in the country without responding to the needs of your residents currently. And you have to continue to move your gold standard to what your residents expect. And
I just read
it's
a
really-
line in a book that stuck with me that says, "Everything has to change for everything to stay the same."
Exactly. You know what? That's
very valid.
That is. I love that.
You know,
Everything
and,
has to change.
Tomorrow it's going to be the new tagline of Ladue.
Yeah.
You're going to see it on signs.
Yeah.
We're gonna have t-shirts made.
So heartbreak. Let's talk
let's
about
go to
Mark.
Well, he's a leader. She talks about Ladue, and he's a leader. So
Mark, introduce yourself to those who don't know you.
Yeah.
And I know that there is a very, very strong, impactful, powerful story. So just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you are, and then tell us a little bit about the story, your story.
Well, from the racing to the stroke, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
You gave it away.
Well, no, but I
You
want
gave it away.
now.
I've been building it up. I could have started with that.
But now-
I could have started with that.
But now
I
people
just
are-
you gave it away.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you tease it. I gave it away because now people are like locked in. Now they're
they
like,
do
oh,
want to
now I
listen.
really want to hear the story.
Well,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I'm not. I don't have the story that my mom has, but definitely,
That's not true.
definitely have had the inspiration, of what she's done in her life and accomplished. And I think, for myself, I kind of always knew that I didn't want to work for anybody else. And I think part of that is when you're a young kid, you see your mom, own their own business.
Yeah.
You kind of just believe that that's a path. I think that a lot of people, don't really realize that you could.
To some people, I
Yeah.
own my own businesses.
Yeah.
My kids are looking at me
Like
and
it's
looking at the
crazy.
stress
That's crazy.
and looking at the sleepless nights
Yeah.
and looking at all this. And my son came up to me the other day. He's 14 years old. And he said, "Why would you ever do this to yourself?"
Yeah.
But at least you keep your furniture.
Yeah.
No, that's not true.
You take them out too.
I think about what do you think?
Have you been? Yeah, have you been to some of the other restaurants?
Anyway, I want to know about Mark. I want to
Yeah.
know about Mark's
Well,
work and.
Yeah, so I ran high school, ran college, cross country track and field, and that was just something I was very passionate about. And as I got into my into my 20s, I knew I kind of wanted to do something with that and make that
With
a
running.
career. Exactly, yeah. And I actually, I credit a lot with your brother because Arik and
Don't
I
credit my brother with anything. Come on.
I got to give him props
He doesn't
because
sponsor this. You don't have to tag
Well, I
him.
have to give him props because in my early 20s, I started my coaching business, Spewak Training, when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And I was connected with Arik because I had been having some injuries and things like that. And so early on in my business, Arik was working with people that that I worked with, and then he was sending me a lot of clients. And so I think with anything, like, you can't grow a business without support of community partnerships. And I think that first partnership with Arik, really kind of solidified that for me and made me realize, like, if I want to be successful at this, I have to have a constant line of referrals, but it can't just be a one-way street.
Right.
You have to find ways to work with other people and work with organizations and things like that. And so, 10 years later, it's myself and we have 10 coaches and we work with people all over the country.
It's incredible. I'm going to cut you off for a second
Yeah.
here because I want to tell our listeners that if it was up to me, my brother would get credit for nothing. I love my brother, but it's just a reminder to our listeners that we don't rehearse for those things.
No.
We don't have any questions in mind.
No.
This is just a simple conversation. But anyway, I
Yeah.
love my brother. I look up to my brother.
But it does show the deep
He's
connection.
my older
Well,
brother, and I can't even think of a week that doesn't go by
Mm-hmm.
that people come up to me and says, "Oh, we love your younger brother." Even though
Take
he's
credit for it.
Anyway.
Well, I think, it's one of those things where, I knew all about you through Arik. I mean,
Yeah.
really early on, he was always like, I'll take you to my brother's restaurant. Every day he would say that. Every time I'd see him, we're going to go to my brother's restaurant. We never went, by the way.
Yeah.
Arik never
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
took me. So I got to give him a little shit for that.
Yeah, there you go.
But, I mean, overall, I started the coaching business, and for years, basically since I was, 19, 20 years
Yeah.
old, I've been putting on
Yeah.
charity running events throughout the city,
Yeah.
doing things like that. And so, fast forward to now, in 2021, we started basically a charitable leg to my coaching business. We actually just had a race yesterday or Sunday with the Jackie Joyner Courtesy Foundation, which
Oh,
was
wow.
incredible.
Dude, the turnout
It's
was-
amazing. We had close to
was
500
insane.
people that were there.
Oh my God.
It's a sellout crowd for us because we can't do much more, with that venue. But Jackie came to the race, and she's fully involved and fully supportive of
Oh,
what we're doing.
yeah.
So
Incredible.
it's opened my doors to a lot of things and opportunities that I wouldn't necessarily have. And so I was thinking about it actually on the way over here, because I was thinking with all the charity running events that I put on in the last 10 years, it's been over $100,000 raised through different charitable initiatives.
incredible.
And so it's pretty cool to think that, but the reality is that that's the community that does that for you. And I think my perspective probably was shaped with my mom. She didn't mention this, but she did a lot of work with like March of Dimes and St. Louis Children's Hospital. I think like you didn't basically, Dad, tell you had to start a business because you were working for free. Wasn't it along the lines of you were working for charity? All she did was charity.
He is famous for, here is the line. One day he said to me, listen, you are making millions of dollars for charity. How about making a little for us?
You know what my favorite line from my grandmother, when we used to tell her, hey, we work so hard, and she would see us work, and she said, when you work so hard, when do you have time to make money?
That sounds like a grandmother line.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was it? This
I
is
love it.
the best grandparent line that that we have is my grandma, telling me when she gave me $100 that she gave me a little bit more than my other grandma.
Yeah.
So that was our famous quote in
Yeah.
our
That's
family.
funny.
Love it.
So
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate with what I get to do. Every single day I get to be passionate about what I do, and it never feels like it's a job.
Mark, go ahead. I want to hear about this.
Well, I was gonna say first before we get to that, like you talk about all the money you've raised, and I think I could speak for Ben when I say this, like it's just not for me. I've always
To ask
hated
people
running.
for money.
No.
To run.
No,
Running.
I have no problem asking
Oh, yeah.
people for money.
We're Jewish. Come on now.
Are you kidding me?
But I will tell
No.
you, I share your
It's the running. But where I was going with it was the running community is such a
It's amazing.
tight-knit group. Talk about the
Yeah.
running community a little bit.
It's a cult.
It's a
It
cult.
is. It is.
It's a
It's a religion.
It is.
Well,
It
and
is.
and one of the reasons why I like putting events on is it gets us outside of that bubble of what just the running community is, because all of our events, they're unique. Kind of similar probably to how you run your restaurants. The distances that I have for my events are not 5Ks and 10Ks.
You just
and
did the
half marathons.
6K, right? It
There's
was
6Ks, a mile, 3K. Like everything that we do is to be unique, but also to make it super accessible to people to walk. Because I want anybody in the community to feel like they can be a part of it, so that when Alex says, like, yeah, I'm not a runner, I don't connect to this. Well, I can imagine that you're not a runner, but I'm sure you have cardio and fusion at some point.
Right.
I'm sure that you like to exercise. So now if there's a charitable
don't.
tie to it, well, then you can just come out.
Then you can walk
and
at
be
a
part
pace
of it.
slow enough where you can eat snacks along the way.
Even your
I
friend
show up
Eric,
3 days a week. I have a personal trainer, and all we do is maybe a couple stretches. Today I skipped because my shoulder is killing me.
Well, even your friend
I
Eric,
detest
came out and did that.
exercising. Detest it.
Yeah.
I was a pretty decent soccer player, but outside of that,
Well, I used to always say the only place I would run to is the bathroom. Got to run to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's, the community in running is probably very similar to a lot of things in St. Louis. I think St. Louis gets a bad rep with a lot of things, but I think that there is that, it all kind of was established really by all the churches in St. Louis having these charitable initiatives. And I think that's really gone over into the community. And so, people that stay here, they want to be invested in St. Louis. They want to be a part of it. And that's something that I find so unique about what we do. But the reality is, like, if you want these things to be successful, you have to put your energy and effort into those things, and you also have to realize that you're not always gonna it's not always gonna be hundreds of people waiting to support you in it. You have to be the one to say, this is what I want, this is what I want to
And
accomplish.
talking about the support, you had something go on over the last year where the outpouring of support from the running community, not only the running community, the Ladue community, like I've never seen anything like it. Obviously what you went through is not what the typical 30-something-year-old, you got 20, I don't even know how old you are.
I'm 33, I was 32.
So tell us about it. Tell us about.
Yeah, I mean,
you had a stroke.
Yeah. So I had 2 strokes, and I went to bed on a Thursday night after one of the best days of my life, to be honest. One of the things that we're doing right now with Spewak Racing, the charitable leg, is we sponsor Confluence Prep, which is a charter school in St. Louis, downtown St. Louis. Shout out Coach Benson, great guy. And we pay for their shoes, we pay for their uniforms, and Coach wanted their kids to have their first experience of a cross-country practice actually on grass, because when you run cross-country, you run on grass.
Yeah.
But because they're downtown, they don't have any grass. They run on the arch grounds, they run in the roads. And so he said, would you come out, to Forest Park and coach the kids? And it was a hot day, and I was like, of course. And I went, and I had the best day. The best day. And I remember calling a good friend of mine, Sonny Ta, who I know you're familiar with Sonny. I was just telling him on the way home. He's very involved in our organization. He's actually the best man at my wedding. And I was telling him, I was like, I know, such a small world. I was just telling him, I was like,
Sonia and Kimi just spent them
in Morocco. Yeah, they loved it.
Yeah.
So it just was telling him over, this is such an amazing day. I mean, this is what we're meant to do. These kids, not only are we able to donate money, and that's great, but we're actually involved in the program. Coach wants us to be a part of these kids' lives, which is so special. And I went home just on top of the world. And every Friday morning, our team gets together for a 6 a.m. run. We meet at the Caldy's Coffee in Kirkwood that day, or DeMun, and I was just getting ready to get up for to go run, and it was probably my wife left the house at 4:30 in the morning to go run herself, and I remember she came right back and she said she just felt like something was off, she couldn't explain it. And if you know my wife, she doesn't skip out on anything. Wow. And so if she's coming back from a run, 5 minutes into a run, that's very
some sort of vibe.
That's not a normal thing for her. She is a.
So what was it? What did she sense?
And I wasn't even up yet. So that's the thing. So I wake up to her alarm, and it was one of those days that you probably have those things where you wake up before your alarm, and I think I was just so energized from the day before. I felt awesome. I felt fantastic, and I immediately stepped out of bed, and it was the craziest thing in the whole world. I couldn't stand on my 2 feet. I was running into the wall. I was, falling into stuff, and I had this ringing in my ear and my eye, and it was just, I can't even explain it. And long story short, Katie is back in the house, and we laugh about this. I can say this now. She won't get upset about it, I don't think. She thought I was having a head rush. So she was like, just go lay in bed. And we laugh about this because she had me lay in bed and set a timer. So she set the timer, and I swear she set the timer 5 minutes after she said she was going to, because she said she was waiting, it was going to be 10 minutes, I was going to lay in bed, and it felt like 20 minutes. But I'm laying in bed and kind of thinking, are you having a panic attack? What is this? Is it just anxiety? Is it really a head rush? She'd gotten head rushes from similar things and getting up too fast. And that's kind of when it all went sideways. I remember, I don't know how graphic or much you want me to get into this, but, I think it's worth sharing because young people do not typically have strokes.
Yeah, I think
but
definitely.
young people can have strokes. And so if I could share my story and what I went through, that can be a huge thing for helping somebody else in the situation. And so I'm laying in bed, and I remember Katie came back down, and there was I was looking at my phone, and the numbers and the letters, everything was off of the screen. It was me chasing letters and numbers off the screen. But at this point, you just think you don't really know what you're going through. You just think something's wrong. And so we live on a dead-end street. And I'm thinking there's no way in hell I'm going to go in an ambulance out of here.
Yeah.
I was like, everybody on our street, and we love Karen, our neighbor, classically named Karen up the road. We love Karen, and we know that when that ambulance goes by, Karen's going to hear it.
Yeah.
Everybody on the
whole
block's going to hear
know,
it. Yep.
Sure.
So I'm like, I don't want to leave in an ambulance, especially if this is just something that's if it's not a serious issue, I don't want to just like
You're
go
gonna
to
have
the
to
ER.
explain, I had a head
it was,
rush and went
it was
to the-
me, whatever. But I think when I realized that stuff was really going
Serious,
downhill was the fact that now I can't speak, and now I can't see. But I was aware enough in that moment to have my wife email and text clients and say, "Hey, I got to cancel my 11 a.m.
Oh
Hey,
my
I
God,
gotta
that's
have
what
you
you're
do
thinking
this."
about.
Yeah,
Oh my
I was
God.
like, I need to clear this day. So I basically had her clear my entire day because I was like, oh, Jackie, I'm meeting with her at 10 a.m. at Francis Park. Like, she needs to know because I don't want her to be stood up, because I'm not going to make it.
That's the first
So,
thing that goes through. That's
I was just thinking about it all, and that's why you don't think it's as serious because you're thinking, okay, I can think through things
Yeah,
cognitively. So Webster EMS comes because we just decide there's just no way I can get out of bed.
Right.
I can't. It was going to be too much to ask Katie to carry me, 185 man, out of the house and all the rest of the stuff. So the EMS shows up, and they come into the room, and it's a weird feeling when you know what they're doing and you're the victim, but you kind of know that like they're taking it really serious, but they talk to you in a way that's like, Mark, can you say this for me? Can you do this? And they were kind of assessing things as we went, and really kind of realized in that moment you're having a stroke. And Katie and I are not thinking stroke. Like that's the last thing the whole world we're thinking. So we get in the ambulance, and I know that we wanted to go to MOBAP. That was the hospital that my doctor recommended, and everybody, our family, that's where we wanted to go. And the Webster EMS, like, I want to give them a shout out. Like, they told my wife, like, you are not going to MOBAP. You are going to Mercy South.
Yeah.
And we're in Webster. It's probably it's the closest stroke level 1 center, in the city that, directly to Webster. And the reason for this, and kind of backing up, Katie has a mentor and colleague at work who had a really massive cerebellum stroke years ago. And it's a phenomenal story. He's a public speaker. He's writing a book. He missed years of work, but has come back and become, a very successful lawyer. But his result, like why he had such a hard road back, was because he got sent to MOBAP. Actually, he got sent to a non-level 1 center because I don't think they even had the same protocols. So his whole advocacy now, and he was telling Katie actually this the other day, is that he's really focusing on making sure you get to the right hospital, you get the right care, because that is everything. Intervention in those, it's a ticking time bomb. If you don't get in right away, like your entire life can be changed. And so I'm in the ambulance, and I can't stop vomiting. Like I am just, like it's almost as if like you're flipped upside down. Like I'm just so sick. Now it is funny because the EMS guy at Webster, there's a guy that runs with us. He's a firefighter or EMS at Webster, and I'm asking him like mid-stroke, hey, Nolan? As I vomit all over the guy. And he's like, oh yeah, Nolan, man, he's a good guy. And so we go to the hospital, and I'm met with like 6 or 7 people right away. Go in there. The protocol is they put you in a CT scan, and then they immediately put you in an MRI. Because the CT scan's not always going to catch a stroke. And then the MRI is going to be the most definitive thing that they can see. And so what happened with this guy was they didn't do that whole protocol. They just did CT scan. So he was diagnosed as vertigo for 2 or 3 days. So that's why that intervention is so important, because once they figure out that you have a stroke, you immediately go right to the right spot. And that's kind of how it all unfolded for me. And I'll say this, like not to be dramatic, but I'm in the MRI machine. And I mean, they got me in there within I probably got to the hospital at 6:45 in the morning, and I was in the MRI machine within minutes. Which for any of us, we've waited months to try to get an MRI sometimes. I just kept thinking, I probably kicked out that one guy that thought he was going to have the 7 a.m. 7 a.m. MRI for this, and so I'm in the actual MRI machine.
And you're alerted this time,
I am just vomiting and I can't speak, and I'm just.
But you're in the MRI machine.
And it was horrible, and
you had to stay still.
You have to stay still, and I'm so sick in there, and it's like I couldn't get out of it, and you're in an MRI machine.
That's terrifying as it is. The MRI.
I don't do MRIs.
No, it's like being buried alive.
Yeah,
it's the worst thing. It's the worst. I think it's the worst thing.
I don't mind them typically, but when it comes to being trapped in there when you're already sick,
it's awful.
And I remember the head nurse goes do you think you maybe had because at this point they don't know if you had a stroke yet or not. They're like, do you think you had anything to eat last night that could have upset your stomach or something? was like, well, I did have a lot of Oreos, you know, and my initial thought was maybe I'm having a diabetic reaction. Like maybe I am officially diabetic and this is how I'm going to find out that I'm diabetic. Like that's where my head was going, you know, where EMS, everybody else knew that.
So
my God.
obviously a very
It was a dark day.
a very dark day.
So when did you find out you were having the stroke? When
so
did
they after the MRI they probably got the
Yeah,
results.
you get sent
and-
into the step down unit ICU, and I think
you
actually
were
they told
back
me
in
right
the
in the ER.
ER. Yeah,
I
she
think she
walked
just
in
said,
the
"I'm so
ER.
sorry to be the one to deliver this news to
And
you."
so what
Stroke.
what do they do? What do you do?
They basically sent me right in, and they immediately
Took
did.
him right
yeah,
to the. They took him right into the step down stroke unit. So he wasn't ever in the ICU stroke, but he was
Yeah.
in the step down, which is bad enough.
Right,
Thank you very
right.
much.
But what's
and then they
Like, how
don't
do they
do
treat?
it. Then they
Yeah, how do
let
they
you
treat?
rest.
Yeah.
Then they.
you basically are like from there. They have to do some
what type of
tests.
intervention do they do?
The
there?
problem was because I woke up with a stroke.
couldn't have
They
that.
they could not give me the intervention drug or whatever they use
Yeah.
because they did not know my last known time that I wasn't having a problem.
Right. So they have to know your time in order to do that.
Wow.
And they didn't know it. But when you wake up with a stroke, you can't have it. So they basically took, but the neurologist was right there. The ICU nurses were all over him. And then basically, some of it's a blur,
Yeah.
but they like put him to rest.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just came in and said he had a stroke and it was in the cerebellum, and that was it.
So aftermath. What you're in the hospital for?
I was
how
almost a
long?
week in the hospital, and then I went to rehab for about 10 days afterwards. And
And when you're in the hospital, they're just observing you. You're
they
not being-
are
Well,
I ended up having issues in the
What
hospital.
about what about speech? What about
That's
the
what
first-
they started right
First
away.
couple of days, yeah, they come in right
They
away
come
with
in
speech.
with
Thought-
speech
yeah.
right away,
So the
and
problem for
outpatient
me when I
therapy.
was in the hospital was that when you have a stroke, your body is just so tired.
and you're probably
are-
very disoriented.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
day is such a blur. I mean, it's like I don't remember the first day much because you're just so exhausted,
Yeah.
you're so weak, and
Yeah.
you've been vomiting. So you have nothing in your system. What they're trying to do during that time is figure out why did you have the stroke. That's the number one job of them,
Right.
to be able to
Right.
diagnose you. And so they do this thing called a bubble test, and I guess because I'm healthy, 32 years old, didn't have any cholesterol problems, didn't have any factors for a stroke. Their decision is they got to figure out why you had a stroke, and it's very common to have a stroke from a PFO, which 1 in 4 people have a PFO, which
What's a
is
PFO?
it is a hole in your heart. Now, most people will never know they have a hole in their heart, but in the 4 of us, I admit it could be all 4 of us, and the thing is that. And I asked my doctor, I was like, should I tell my brothers, things like that? He's like, no, because basically you'd be there'd be no room for the hospital to have even the ability to see all these people because the entire world is just full of people with PFOs.
Wow.
But 1% of those folks who have a PFO have a stroke. And so once they realize that you have PFO, that's pretty much their reasoning for why you had the stroke.
Sure.
And so it was the bubble study test kind of said I had a stroke, or kind of said I had a PFO, but it was kind of inconclusive. And then they give you another test, which is called a TEE test, which they put you under for it, and they basically just go in and they can look at your heart. And that they stopped it because at that time they thought there was a blood clot in my heart, which ended up not being
I know.
true. So it was just it was a wild chase while I was in the hospital for them to figure it out. And so, you stay in the hospital, and then by the end of it, I went to rehab. And honestly, my success and my growth happened once I got to rehab because it is I kind of enjoyed it because it was like boot camp.
I did,
It was
and
like-
I saw on social the amount of work you put in.
Yeah.
Is just it's honestly admirable to a sense of this is just what you got to do, and you didn't let it get you down at all, and it was just. It was amazing to watch.
This is the first time I meet Mark, and obviously it's a very inspirational story. The fact you're sitting here and you're at no point this conversation. It sounded like this is something that occurred to you. Sounds life altering, obviously
Yeah.
life changing, but your demeanor stayed almost
the same.
Yeah.
At no point you're thinking, oh, this is how I go down. So I haven't heard it at least.
Yeah.
All I've heard was I'm thinking about other people, about my appointments, about all I hear about is just how do I continue to get better. So there's this positivity, and this is what I'm going to say, because we talk about the running and the running community. There is a sense of purpose with running. I mean, obviously you run from one point to the next, but this repetition. This is conversations with my brother. There is a sense that it allows you to finish something and then start it again the next day. It's Sisyphean, right? But at the same time, it does give you this sense of positivity, this sense of purpose, this sense of, tomorrow's another day and I'm going to...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, when you're, like, I couldn't walk for, several days and had to relearn how to walk. But it was never a thought in my head that I didn't know how to walk.
Yeah, and as a runner, though, like, how does that thought not even cross your mind, right?
Because I think for me, the whole time you have all these people who are caring for you. You have all these amazing nurses, and you have all these amazing PTs, all these amazing doctors. So you're constantly being pampered by people who want to see you be successful. And for me, it just seems incredibly selfish to sit there and wallow, when all these people are coming in there trying to help you.
Mark, do you share this story with people?
I have shared the story for sure, of the stroke, and
well, that's what
like
we're
that,
hoping.
And the resilience, the recovery.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I try to show on social the positives of it. I think it's funny, when I was in rehab, every morning I would wake up and go ride the halls in my wheelchair and do a workout, because that's what I would do normally. I'd get up and go run or use the elliptical. So I'd do 30 to 40 minutes.
You didn't let it change your routine. It was just
they
what
thought I was
you were...
insane.
I was ready to kill him because, I was so nervous. We were so nervous he's going to have another stroke. They hadn't really proved that it was the PFO. And, they're telling me, well, we had to put an alarm on his wheelchair because he's out in the parking lot doing
He's a flight risk.
workouts with the wheelchair.
He was a flight risk.
Total flight risk. Complete.
You see him wheeling down.
100%.
I got stuck in the bottom of the hill.
This has to be one of the toughest things for a parent to continue. Like, I'm sure that you're still...
it's
still there.
As a
parent. You can't get over something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I will just share that when he was 6 weeks old, he was very seriously ill and had pertussis, which is whooping cough. And he had contracted it before, probably at a family gathering, to tell you the truth, because he hadn't really been out, before he was vaccinated, and we almost lost him. And so to see it a second time, thank you. That was too much.
Stop messing with her, will you?
I know,
She's had enough.
She's had
enough worry about you.
I always say every gray hair I have on this head is
you.
from this one.
Let the three other boys give her some trouble.
But his resilience and his determination has existed. I had my husband's partner's wife said to me in the hospital when he was 6 weeks old, she said, take a picture of him now. And I said, I can't. I don't ever want to remember this. I don't want to see it. And she said, you will want to show him one day how strong he was. And it just, I think he is the strongest person I know. I mean, he's resilient, he's positive, and as a parent, you just to watch it is a beautiful thing. If you could just erase the event of the, stroke.
Full of vitality. This is an amazing story. I mean, for me, because this podcast is called Jews in the Lou, and we didn't really know what we're doing, Alex and I. We have every one of those episodes, if you listen, we have to kind of rethink about really what's the purpose of this thing. And one of our things was we just wanted to talk to people in our community that have universal stories. And because the idea is, it doesn't matter that we're Jewish. I think our Jewishness informs us in other ways. But that we are in this community, that we are doing things that, everyone can relate to.
Inspire other people.
And I think this is the ultimate universal story. We have two remarkable individuals here. Happen to be related. I'm sure that there is a... yes, I mean, I just think that it's such a great opportunity to have you on. One thing I wanted to ask, and because again, Jews in the loop, I want to talk about your Jewishness. Does that inform any of this? It doesn't have to, obviously. These are not unique things to Judaism. But was there, at any point during this episode, in your day-to-day life, outside of the episode, does this vitality, does this sense of purpose that you both have, and sense of like community, and is
How does it
informed by your
tie to the-
Jewishness?
yeah.
Yeah,
Is there
I mean,
anything
the
that?
Jewish people are resilient just in general, and I think that when you're, in grade school and you're coming up with your friends who are also Jewish, and you go to temple and things like that, you have a community with you, and I think that you don't really realize how unique it is to be Jewish until you are, probably out of high school,
Yeah.
and you realize, wow, there's not that many Jewish people.
Totally.
And this community isn't, it is big, but it's a lot smaller.
It's tiny.
At
It's not
Ladue,
big.
everybody's Jewish,
Yeah.
so it wasn't very unique.
I talk about how I was the first Jewish Jewish person a lot of people like in college
Yeah.
even met. You
Yeah,
know?
I
Yeah.
went to school in Arizona, and I had a lot of my friends would say, "I've never met a Jewish person."
Yeah.
before."
Seriously?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a very
Um,
unique thing for a lot of people. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
that for sure. I think, that, the thing that I remember, with Temple and, and all the high holy days and everything it was all about the community aspect. And I'm sure that even if I'm not thinking about that every day, your habits in life are created by what you do when you're young. And
Yeah.
that's kind of repetition. So I don't think it's any coincidence that we are the way that we are. And,
Right.
our dad is the real, shining Jew of them all.
Yeah,
So,
Temple.
he's the one that leads the family,
He leads the
and,
charge.
Temple,
makes us all look better.
Yeah. I think that don't you think that you, no matter what we're involved in, okay, you build community, right?
Yeah.
And when you build community, you build something strong. And so whatever careers we're in or whatever paths of lives we take, as mayor, I want to build a community. I want people in Ladue to know each other. I want to build a community that's part of a greater community that feels a responsibility to the greater region as well. The running community is amazing. Look at just the community around the restaurateurs and chefs.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to chair the Star Chefs Committee for March of Dimes, and it morphed into other names, and I think it was Signature Chefs, but that community is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they support each other and the way they support others in the community is really cool. So, and even when you're in an interior design business, you're building, you're building a community with your clients.
Yeah.
And we get to know them, and you want to be, it's more than just a job.
Relationships is everything.
Yeah, it's your
Totally.
relationships.
That's the
Yeah.
only thing that endures. I had a good friend at my house on Sunday, and a very wealthy individual, an accomplished person, and we kept talking, and I couldn't but sense that he has void in his life, and it's not spirituality, because he's a fairly spiritual individual as well. And I spoke with him, and I said, what's missing? And he said, I don't have a great relationship with my children. I don't feel like I have very, very close friends. I mean, he and I see each other once every 6 weeks, once every other month, something like that. We're not best buddy. We're not. And he said, I'm a man of great health, wealth, and my health. He's an older person. My health is in check. He said, my wealth could change, my health could change. What endures is relationships, and it was very, very impactful, very powerful. And what I hear is that that's what moves you and what steers you, and so it's what moves and steers me too. This is all I strive for is connection.
I agree. I think it's more about like the people that you know and surround yourself with, and you get to a point where you honestly start to see the people that prioritize other things over the relationships, and they're kind of the people that you don't really necessarily want to be around, because they're opposite of you. They're
Yeah.
kind of trying to find the things that like you can be negative about, rather than basically looking at everything for what it is and just finding the positive motivation from every single day, just waking up.
Yeah. Well, I think like something that's unique probably about all four of us is that, I would imagine that, there's a lot of people who, they know Ben because of the restaurants, and so their angle might be, I want to be Ben's friend because of the restaurants, or Alex was on Y98, like if I'm on, sorry, 98.1,
Yeah.
sorry, but, he's out there on social.
Yeah.
People always say it all the time. Like they have to say, oh, your mom's the mayor. Well, it's almost as if like there's they don't realize, I would say, that we're all just four people that actually don't value any of those things probably to that level.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like the success that I've had, at least in the running community, I never want to be viewed as this like, oh, this staple or whatever. I want to be viewed as Mark Spewak, and I think about like community as a teammate, you know, and I just so happen to be the one that's the leader, but not the one that's like the you're gonna get something out of me. And I think that's probably been a weird thing for me when people come up to me and they're like, they have to introduce me as like mayor's son or whatever the case is, like I'm very proud of you. I think that's awesome, but that's not anywhere near the top 50 things that I'm going to associate with myself or you or things like that.
No, come on.
Yeah.
Top 10, please. Top 10,
I mean, I'm
please.
very proud
He said
of
top
you.
fit, not even 50.
No.
You didn't even crack 50.
I'm very proud of her for being mayor, but like if that's the only reason why you're going to talk to me, or like my dad.
No, so
yeah.
there's a distinction here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you accomplish something like that, yeah. But if people's interest in you, I see what you're saying. If people are interested in you are because
of that.
of that, then they're
They're not seeing you for who you are, like and really wanting to know the true you.
Yeah.
Are there term limits in Ladue? Or are you going to be a
No,
lifelong
there are
mayor?
not term limits, but there is an election.
Okay.
And the mayor's term is up every 2 years.
Okay.
2 years.
Oh, 2 years. That's all.
Are you in term
Okay,
number 1 right
so,
now?
Okay.
No,
This is kind
I've
of
been mayor
crazy.
for quite a while.
This
Have
is
you?
crazy.
How many years? 2013. She's
Yeah.
been the mayor for quite some time now.
12,
For what, 13
13
years?
So every
Yeah.
2 years, what can you accomplish in 2 years? I mean,
Well, it's tough. I agree with you. It is tough. It kind of, the council members are 2 years too. So it's.
somebody handed us
We got a
something.
note. So, wow.
What is it?
He coached my daughter in Minneapolis.
This was
Oh
not
my gosh,
prompted.
wow.
You see? That's
But
funny. That's
unbelievable.
organic.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's organic.
Thank you for sharing that.
Wow.
Lucy's great. She's
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's
so
incredible.
funny.
That's what I mean.
In Minneapolis,
I mean,
Yeah,
not
she's
even in
doing-
St. Louis.
Yeah, she's doing Chicago too. We're gonna run it together.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. This was
awesome.
That's amazing.
This is what
But
Jews and
that's
Lou
what
does.
the connections are,
Yeah.
I mean, when you,
Wow. Thank you for
it's
that, by
kind
the
of
way.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, what's we got going on here? And then
Yeah.
the note came. I was like, this
I
is
would
great.
say like
Yeah.
like something that I think we both can attest to this. So my dad, her husband, is not a person that is going to be like wants to be on the camera or like a show me person, but he was the pediatrician to everybody in this town. I mean, everywhere we go, and I guess to you as well. Yeah. So everywhere we go, somebody
Yeah.
brings up my dad, but my
Yeah.
dad is not that person.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I never knew how successful he was
yeah.
until I went to Merrimack. And I remember that was like my first experience hearing all these people. The first day of class, the professor, the students in class, 3 of them heard my name and they all asked. And to this day, it still runs that, runs that deep. And I think I try to be like him because he was always just do the best job you possibly can, treat people with respect, but it was never for a motive.
So, I love you. There's an operative word in what you just said. It's not respect. It's successful, because you define successful. I don't even think with you actually contemplating it, but you've defined successful in terms of legacy, not in terms of business or in terms of
Right.
success is legacy. It's leaving a little bit of you and making an impact, even the smallest impact on people, in a positive way. That to me is the ultimate success. If you
Right.
touch someone,
Right.
Yep.
and
leave
you've just
something
used that
behind.
word without even, because most people say, oh, he's so successful. How successful is your restaurant? How successful is your term? What have you accomplished?
Right.
No, success is exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Success could be defined simply as the legacy that you're leaving behind, the impact that you've imprinted
It's
on
insightful.
people. That was
great
very,
words
very
from Ben
insightful.
right there.
Thank you.
That's
Because
honestly,
I've given interview. People says, well, so what's your most successful project? And I'm like, it's the one that failed. It's the two that failed. It's the three that failed. I had many failures.
Yeah.
Well, why are they successful? We lost a lot of money. There were sleepless nights. It was a very stressful time.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was successful. It was successful because some of the people that were with me along the way endured it with me.
Yeah.
Continued to with me. Business failure doesn't translate into personal failure.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's
You
true.
We had restaurants that we closed, and I still consider them as successes because we learned from them, or while they were open, we've contributed something, and that to me is bigger success than.
Well, the question that I would have is, you obviously have, you can hang your hat on, particular businesses that you've created that everybody will forever know. But I'm sure you obviously have these projects, like you said, that are maybe the ones that failed over the years, or the ones
Many
that
of them.
survived. But are you doing it to? It doesn't sound like you are, to chase almost the big success. Or are you doing it to fulfill your heart?
Never. If so, I will tell you a story. Over the last year or so, me and my team, we met every Friday. One of my managers came up and says, we don't really have core values to our organization, and we don't really have. And so we sat down and started composing what we thought were Bengelina's core values, and we came up with some great things. And this was over the course of 6, 7, 8 months of meeting every Friday and putting this together. And we're looking at all those things. And one of my managers pointed out that the word profit or financial stability or, expending for the purposes of, or awards or any of that stuff is nowhere to be found.
Wow.
We forgot to talk about, hey, we also need to be, build a sustainable business or a profitable business to continue to do that thing. It didn't even occur to us that that's what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
This is how unfocused I am, which is, it's not a good thing when you run business, but this is how unfocused I am.
we know you're unfocused.
Okay.
But-
You're
But
pretty
it's because
locked
you're
in.
passionate about
Yeah.
your
We're
craft.
passionate
You're
about
passionate about your people.
We're passionate about hospitality.
It's not about just having the #1 restaurant and 1 million followers on social.
No, and that's
you
fine
know.
too. I
Yeah.
like when I get recognition.
Yeah,
Of course, it's a
absolutely.
boost to the morale.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an ego boost is not a bad thing. It's you want to make people feel proud of their workplace and all that.
Yeah.
But it's not what we're about. It's not what I'm trying to get to.
Well, I think if your character is inconsistent when you're at the grocery store or you're at the park, with the person that you are and your career, you're doing it wrong. Because you should be, and I think that's what we learned, obviously, from my mom, from my dad, is that you are that same person wherever you are to whoever it is, to the janitor, to whatever. And if it's different, in my opinion, that's when you've gotten in for the wrong reasons.
I think that's great. You authentically you. You just authentically you.
Are yourself.
Given the situation,
Yep.
no matter what the situation is, like the camera turns on, the camera turns off,
Yeah.
you're going to get the same
Right.
regardless.
I think it's just that the reason I am mayor of Ladue, other than besides the fact that people have elected me, is because I just feel like I'm leaving it a better place, that I'm improving it, and that so just like adding sidewalks, adding a trail, adding flock cameras to make sure that we're safe, whether it's community policing or training your fire and EMS or having the very best public works staff that is taking care of your residents. They're all people, and they've all got their own individual problems and goals and good things and bad things.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that it's just I'm making an impact not only on the residents but on the people who work for us.
Yeah.
And we appreciate them so greatly as the residents of Ladue. That it's a great thing to be able to affect that
Well,
Honestly,
I mean,
you guys are two of the best, like, just overall people, I think, that,
No,
like,
Yes.
far from it.
We
Far
in
from it.
general.
No.
No, I know we got to wrap here in a couple
Yeah.
minutes, but we'll do, like, a couple fun things just to kind of end it,
Okay.
because you talked about, like, your goal, like, what you strive for as mayor. Like, you just want to leave it better than it was
Right,
before. But it's kind of, like, relative to this. But I want to know, like, okay, you're running, you get to choose the most ideal, dreamy, scenic running course that's there in the whole world. You get to create it for you. What is the race that you're going to organize to, like, do that?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it has to be if I have unlimited rain, there has to be a charitable tie.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let's go with.
See, it's the
let's
first
go
thing
with,
he goes, "Oh."
Let's go with an event that's gonna solve world peace and hunger. You know, so that's where we're starting. You know,
Okay.
like we're gonna bring all these people together because we're gonna have millions that show up for this event, and then we're gonna need a massive amount of land for parking and for accessibility for lodging. So we got to think about probably somewhere, you know, somewhere in the world that I don't know that specific place, but that can accommodate for that. You know, I'm almost thinking Ireland with like with the ocean front, things like that, and being able to run on those beautiful long hills, things like that. And then you have to be able to finish with a huge party because whatever you do in your life, you have to have a celebration.
Sure.
And that gets buy-in because that's where I can pull a guy like Ben or Alex who does not like running, but still likes the idea of supporting people that are
Sure.
there. Whether, you know, and one thing I do like just want to mention is like Alex, you know, I knew nothing about Alex's, you know, background and personality before the Dogwood Run.
Right,
You know,
right.
Jody just told me my friend Alex is going to play the music.
Yeah.
And then I found out afterwards, I was like, this guy's, oh my God. I mean, knew you were legit from person to person of how you
Right,
treated me.
right.
He's okay.
And
Come
your
on.
cousin and everything
Come
else
on.
like that. They're great people.
He's all right.
But I'm saying, like, that's who you were. And so, but you do that for free.
Mm-hmm.
He plays in professionally, but you lend your hand for us at the
Right.
Dogwood Run. And so all that to be said, I feel like when you have something that makes people feel really fulfilled, then people like Alex and those other folks will step up. And if we're trying to solve, you know, hunger and world peace, we're going to need some big players, and I think that's where we start with.
What's your beer? What beer are you getting?
Well,
when you
four
cross
hands.
line? Okay, all right.
So Kevin,
right,
Chris,
there
and
you go.
Liz, you know, we're gonna have to get a lot of beers ready. They just got this new beer. Actually, I'm just going to advertise. It's called the Stride beer, and it's going to be their big fitness
All right.
beer.
We had a lot
for
of
the
plug-
adventures.
unplanned
Yeah,
plugs.
yeah.
Unplanned
So,
plugs.
the
All
Stride-
great plugs, by the way.
All
Stride-
great
the
plugs.
Stride beer. We just
Kevin
had
is one of my
yesterday.
favorite individuals
Yep. So
anywhere.
yeah, the amazing beer. Yeah, check it out.
Amazing guy.
Oh my God.
This was amazing.
Yeah, this
Amazing.
was great. You
Yeah,
both
thank
are
you.
making a difference in this community as well, and it's
Thank you.
it's just, you know, I
Thank
don't think
you.
any
We
of us
do-
wake up in the morning and think I want to make a difference.
Yeah.
But I think that it drives us in our intentions
Yeah.
of what
Yes.
we do every day.
Whatever we can do to share
Yeah.
stories, we
Yeah.
like to do it.
That's what's so
Absolutely.
special about St. Louis is that you are passionate about it. It is your home. You want to make the best of it, and that's what you can do. Instead of being in the negative narrative, you can be the one that's trying to change that.
Yeah.
Bingo. That's a perfect note to end on.
We're out.
So thank you, Spewak.
Nancy and Mark Spewak.
Thank you.
The best.
This
Thank
is
you guys.
great.
Yeah.
That was
incredible.
wonderful.